You had a piece that came out right after the election where you said that basically, along with several co-authors, I should add, basically the
Yep.
argument being that this is the time to sort of reaffirm a commitment to politics. Explain what you mean by that and what kind of
Yeah,
politics are
so
you
so
talking
so
about?
that piece is interesting because that piece was written. I think we started it at 2:15 a.m. Right after the election, or even before it was completely called. Finished it by 2:45, 3 a.m. And it was a real fun piece to write because despite the pressing circumstances of everyone being very distraught with the results, it was like an old school posse cut. I would write like two paragraphs, and then Catherine or Megan would write like two paragraphs or whatever. So it was a proper posse cut. But basically, what we were trying to say is we could see what the response was going to be, and we could see the response would be this kind of vague attack on let's say the notion of populism of all varieties, right? And obviously in America, populism has actually a deep and rich history. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really slippery term. It's hard to say exactly what we mean when we say populism.
Right.
Well, we look back at a certain populist strand through the New Deal, through the Great Society. Before that, like every really progressive move in the U.S. has kind of had a lot of that spirit in it. And Trump obviously has this very nasty version of it. But in many ways, we wanted people to point out to people that this isn't, some mandate for white supremacy. This doesn't mean that, 40 something percent of our friends and neighbors are irredeemable, baskets of deplorables or whatever. This actually just tells us that, this kind of centrist politics have failed. And a portion of the electorate, I should mention this was the number three choice of people was to vote for Trump. The number one choice was to not vote. The number two choice was vote for Clinton. Number three
Well,
choice
and
of people was
actually,
to vote for Trump, but
number one
enough for them
choice
to make a
was
difference.
actually Clinton because she did win the popular vote.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes, definitely. But I mean, we should note that this election should have been a cakewalk.
right,
Like
definitely.
Donald Trump, like I think 2 months before the election, he probably decided he didn't want to be president or something. Because even despite his usual verbal diarrhea, I think he got even more ridiculous and over the top. But so this should have been an easy one. You can imagine Marco Rubio was the nominee. Maybe Clinton would have even more trouble. But one thing that Trump captured was this kind of anger at it's vaguely defined, but establishment politics. And Clinton wasn't able to speak to that anger. And we wanted to really pin a lot of the loss on not Clinton herself personally, because in many ways Clinton's become a scapegoat for
Hmm.
all these kind of DNC centrist types.
Right.
Because they keep saying things like, "Oh, she's a bad campaigner" or whatever. No, what we saw last month was a repudiation of Clinton, but also Obama, also Biden, like the whole lot of those people. But and we said since the beginning, a lot of us who supported Bernie Sanders said that, what, like we actually think he's the most electable candidate because he's actually speaking to anger. And one way I could put it is this, we the slogan that of course propelled Trump was "Make America Great Again." Clinton's response to it is so unbelievably out of touch.
Right.
And Obama's response, "America's never stopped being great." I mean, and I think they captured the votes of a lot of people for whom that was true, or the very least, who could say that in the last 8 years, their lives have gotten better, or at least haven't been devastated. So they could actually talk with a straight face about a recovery.
Hmm.
But for a lot of people who haven't seen a recovery, who haven't seen much from Democratic administrations, you could see why they didn't support them, or a lot of them stayed at home, and some of them voted for Trump. And if anything, if Trump's slogan was "Make America Great Again," the slogans that were coming from the Sanders Democrats and others, the good people in this race was, "Make America Great," full stop, right? We might not concede that it's ever been that great, especially if you're on the wrong end of U.S. empire or whatnot. But that was kind of our message, and I think it worked well in the primaries among independents and self-described moderates, even partially because it was speaking to anger, and it was creating a narrative where we were acknowledging the conditions that a lot of people's lives were in, and we were saying there is a better way, and we know who's responsible.
Right.
And I think that left populism is really going to be the salvation of U.S. politics. But we need to avoid falling into the kind of liberal trap and fall into this narrative that, hey, we don't have to listen, we don't have to talk to these people, we don't have to win over any of them. It's not even just about winning over a couple Trump voters here and there. It's about what kind of posture you're going to have towards politics, and whether you're going to see it as like a technocratic thing where whenever the people get involved, things get messy because the people are dumb, or you're going to say that you actually want to create and expand democratic avenues. So that's what we meant when we said politics is the solution. We meant that democratic politics and engagement is how you win elections, and that's the opposite of the kind of technocratic approach by a lot of the centrists in the Democratic Party.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.